titled Intuition, Fact or Fiction. Wes, the floor is yours.
Before I begin the speech, I'm sorry, I'm not clear on who the timer is.
Oh, Carrie, I believe it's the timer.
Yes, I am.
Carrie? Okay, thank you. Okay, now the next word I utter will be Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Intuition, fact or fiction? What are your thoughts about intuition? I believe it's rooted in fact because I've experienced the effects of intuition. I've known people who have experienced intuition in their lives. Not to give you several examples of how intuition has played into my life and the lives of others. My dad was a combat platoon sergeant. There was one instance where his platoon had been marching all day long and they came to the edge of a wooded area. The platoon leader, a very well-respected leader, gave an order to my dad to have the men camp at the edge of this wooded area. He said, I've got to go to the battalion and get orders for the next day. If I'm not back before dark, you're in charge. So we went off and to the battalion, and Dad was surveying the area with binoculars, and he thought he saw a glint of sunlight somewhere in the hills. And from that point on, he's thinking that that could be enemy binoculars, it could be an enemy weapon. And from that point, he realized that if he were commanding that area, he would already have ranges already predetermined to know locations of where to shoot artillery fire. This was a mortar platoon, so he knew about artillery tactics. But he had a very bad feeling the minute he saw that glint. So he conferred with his section sergeants the situation. But they said, look, the man's a West Point valedictorian of his class. He certainly knows what he's doing. But Dad could not shake that feeling. So just before dark, Dad gave an order to countermand that lieutenant's order and have the whole platoon move 200 yards further into the woods. There's a problem here. If you countermand a direct field order in combat conditions and you lead your men into trouble, you could have a very serious situation. But Dad felt justified. But Dad said the air was blue with cursing from the men, and understandably, because they've been marching all day long in this very exhausting situation, this march. So the men were so tired, they did not hear the shell fire. All night long, the enemy had pulverized the area where they had been. Had they been where they were, the platoon would have been severely decimated. So that's one instance where my father experienced intuition. In college, I was having trouble with a certain math concept. And I don't know why this happened, but this is a true story. It was during the final exam, and this concept, the problem showed up with this concept. And I was looking at it. For some reason, it just came clear to me. I don't know why, but it just came clear to me, and I got through the exam and passed the course very well. But that was an intuitive experience. Some years later, I was on a survey ship working for the Naval Oceanographic Office. We pulled in a port, and I talked with a scheduler saying that I had an extension for another month. But the senior scientist, the incoming senior scientist said, no, you're being relieved. But I said, no, this can't be right. But I had an inner feeling that I knew I was right. So I left the ship. I went to a payphone back in the days when there were payphones, and I called the office collect from Bermuda. The scheduler answered the phone and we discussed the matter. He says, but you're right. You're right. You do have this extension. By the time I got back to the ship, the extension had been approved and I was there for another month. But I knew I had an inner feeling that I was right on this. And I detest the term gut feeling. Intuition has nothing to do with one's stomach. Since what is indigestion imply any type of wisdom? Several years after my father, many years later, after my father passed away, I had a dream about my mom and dad. We were going to take a trip by train. We've never done that before. But in the dream, Dad got on a on an earlier train. As the train was pulling away from the station, Dad called out to my mom and I saying, we'll meet up at the next stop. I found that I found that very comforting because that implied a life after death. Many years later, when my mom passed away, well, my mom tripped over a ripple in the carpet and broke her hip. She was very frail and had to be transferred to another hospital before she could begin rehabilitation. Before rehabilitation, I had a dream about my mom. Well, I had a dream that I was at a shoreline setting and I saw the dark cloud coming toward me. The dream ended as though I was taking shelter from raindrops. The hospital that my mom was transferred to was on a shoreline setting. Several months later, my mom passed away due to complications from that broken hip. But I do believe that intuition is not fiction, that is indeed fact. And I gave some examples why I believe this, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wes, for the speech. It's um, I will save my evaluation for the end, but I do want to say that I thought it was good. And before I say too much, I would like to pass on the lectern, well, the digital lectern, to the table topics master for the evening, which is Maurice.
All right, thank you, Caleb. I will be giving the table topics questions, and I'll ask for a volunteer. So I'll ask the question first, and then I'll ask for a volunteer. And I'm going to try to keep it with the theme of conflict resolution. The first table topics question is, have you ever resolved a conflict between either two best friends or two close friends, and how did you do it? Okay, I see Carrie's hand up. Oh, I see Olivia's hand up.
No, go ahead. I'll let Kayla have it. Go ahead.
Okay, let me set timer for myself. I have a big conflict between me and the best friend of mine. Not just one friend, but also two, three. Sometimes I have the conflict. But always same way to solve the problem. And how? By listening to them. by listening to her, by listening to him. Listening is the most important, and much more than important than talking, speaking. That's the most important in communication. A lot of people think communication is not talk, 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 outgoing, output. No, actually, it's listening, input. That's most important. That's how I solve the problem, conflict with my friends. Listening is not just the listening passively, not just looking at the cell phone or watching around. No, active listening is the key. And what is active listening? Is how I want to show using entire mind, body, entire body of mind, and want to show that I really listen to you. I really listen to you. And eye contact, body gesture, and then even hand gesture, and my facial expression, even my mouth. Just the same as the way to speak, not just really quiet, no emotion, no movement. Have to use the body. Plus, you have to say sometimes and they have to rephrase it and say something, of course, not just to be completely quiet, silent. That's the way I really listen to. And while she or he talking, do not disturb. Do not say, no, I don't think so. In my opinion, no. Just listen. When listening, sometimes she or he talking 10 minutes, 15 minutes, could be 30 minutes or even 1 hour, but just listen. And finally, she or he is satisfied. Then I speak something if I want to say. But first, of course, in my opinion, no. I said, I understand. I see your viewpoint. So I accept what she or he said. That's the technique. And usually solve any conflict or problem with my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I got 225. All right. Next question is, or next table topics question is, oh, let me turn this off. Okay. All right, next table topics question is, during your attempt to resolve a conflict, tell me an experience where you weren't able to resolve a conflict because you weren't able to placate the person that you or someone else was in conflict with. And okay, I
That's a
see.
tough one, Maurice.
Oh, say that again.
Now, so that's a tough one. I was trying to think of a situation, but go ahead. I think you said you found someone.
Yeah, I think
I couldn't
Caleb
think of both
raised his
names.
hand.
Right. Olivia, if you wanted to take the question, uh,
Absolutely not.
okay.
I can't tell y'all all my business.
So the question was, correct me if I'm wrong, but when was there a situation when I was unable to placate someone, right?
So many words, yes. When you weren't able to placate someone during a conflict, you weren't able to resolve the conflict.
Right. All right, fellow Toastmasters and honored guest. My question was, when was I not able to placate someone during a conflict? And as I have no shame, I'm going to go back to a story from high school where when you're kids and you're in high school, things happen and you have friendships and then you have friendships that break apart really quickly. And this is a story about one of those instances. I had a best friend at the time who was my next door neighbor. and we were pretty close, and everything was fine and good, and we were hanging out a lot of the time. And then he started dating one of my other neighbors, who at the time I also had a crush on. And it did not go over super well between us because it led to some conflict coming up that otherwise wouldn't have been there. And I'm sorry to say this, but I did not resolve that conflict very well because then I ended up with her instead, and he ended up being no longer my friend. And in one of those cases, you could say, well, maybe if we talked about it in a mature way, maybe things would have worked out a bit better. But we were in high school and we were young boys and we didn't really have sense between us. And once we stopped being friends and after I was dating who would end up being my girlfriend in high school, we never really saw eye to eye after that, and I'm pretty sure he still doesn't care for me if he even remembers who I am at this point. And that's one of the times where I wasn't able to really placate someone. I don't think there was anything I could do to really placate them because really it was not a very good thing that I did at the end of the day. But that is my answer, and I will pass it back to you, Maurice.
All right, thanks, Caleb. Okay, we'll do one or two more because it's 7:03. Next table topics question is, do you consider yourself someone who is good at conflict resolution and placating people involved in conflicts? Okay, I see Donovan's hand, and were you about to say something, Wes?
No, I'm 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 chatting to Caleb.
Oh, all right. So did you raise your hand, Donovan? Okay.
Yes, thank you. My question that was given to me was, do I consider myself to be able to placate difficult decisions, basically? Is that correct?
How many words are you good at conflict resolution between two people?
Okay. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, by thinking about this question, there are so many answers that I can fit into this. One particular answer, I would say yes, I am trained to know how to deal with different types of issues. One way that I've learned is to weigh the different outcomes of the different decisions that you would have to make. The second would be writing down what you could do and how that would affect others. By using those strategies, I'm I will be able to deal with those types of situations. In college, I had a couple classes on crisis communications. One was on in communications, and another one was actually wasn't really as much in communications, but I had a class in sports law. By understanding both, I'm able to look at the different situations and figure out of the different outcomes that of each thing that I would have to consider. Have to now that's basically my answer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Donovan, for that. And it is 7:06, and I will conclude table topics. And I will relinquish the lectern back to the Toastmaster, Caleb.
Thank you, Maurice. It is at this time that I would like to call on our general evaluator for the evening, which is Donovan.
Thank you, Caleb. I just want to say that right now it's 7:07, which isn't bad as a meeting. I felt that the meeting itself went well. Very very informative and interesting speech from Wes. Very well, really good questions for table topics and wonderful answers from everybody else. Other than that, I just thought that it all went well. So that's basically my role for the evening, basically. Back to you.
Thank you, Donovan.
Oh,
If you want to,
go ahead. Go ahead, Caleb. You got it.
oh, I was just going to say, if you want to call on the all counter and grammarian and the timer as well.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot about that. By placating my mistake, let's go ahead and go to the false evaluator that evaluated was a speech on intuition, fact, or fiction. The evaluator is Caleb Sutton. Caleb?
Thank you, Donovan. All right, back to me again. I would like to start off my evaluation by saying that I believe this is the third time that I've heard Wes's speech on intuition, if I'm remembering correctly, because you've given it 2 times before. And I believe this is one of, if not the strongest of the the speech that you've given. And I say that because from the one that I've heard before, it seems like this time you were really focusing on having vocal variety and then really trying to bring to life the stories that you told leading up to your overall unifying thread of intuition, fact, and fiction, and that you strongly believe that intuition is something that exists, for lack of a better word. One of the things that I was thinking of and that I made note of in the evaluation is, well, you give these stories and they're really fleshed out and they really let you imagine what's going on at each of these points. When you come to the end of well, to the end of your speech, because you've spent so much time on the beginning half and really establishing these, the conclusion seems to be really quick in comparison. So, as for an evaluation or for an area of, I suppose, improving, I guess a suggestion really would be having one or two of those stories and really just fleshing it out as best as you, or to really just bring that whole story to life, and then having the conclusion being a really strong and unified point. And I think that would really help like add the punch to the talk. But I know I'm long-winded when I give speeches, so I that's something I struggle with as well. So it's something I pay attention to in other speeches. In terms of eye contact, clarity, and hand gestures, it's you've excelled at that since I've been a member, and you continue to excel at that. And I could certainly learn a lesson or two about actually standing up and using my hands effectively when I talk. Overall, it was a great speech, and I look forward to seeing the evolution of it as we go forward. And that is my speech evaluation, and I will hand it back to our general evaluator, which is Donovan.
Yes, thank you, Caleb. That was a well prepared evaluation of us to speak. Other than that, let's go ahead and go to the timer for the evening. Kiri?
Good evening. I am your timer tonight. Let's start with pocket speech. 7 minutes and 16 seconds. Myself, my short speech, table topic speech, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Thank you for timer, Maurice. Time my speech, Maurice. Thank you. Caleb, your pocket speech, 2 minutes and 21 seconds. And your evaluation, 2 minutes and 58 seconds. Donovan, your pocket speech, 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Sometimes we speak longer than we're supposed to, but but don't be upset. Don't worry about it. I try to placate you by shaking really nice way so that you got notified. Thank you.
Donovan, passing it back to you to call on the all counter and grammarian.
Sorry, I didn't hear him. Sorry. That's my fault.
All right.
Other than that, let's move on to the outcome and grammarian report. And I believe that is Bethany. Bethany?
Okay, thank you, Donovan. So looking at the all count for tonight, I would say that Caleb, I would try to reduce the amount of filler words. I noted that you had about 3 tonight. So I'll just make sure to be a little bit more aware of using words like and or so rapidly or using them repeatedly. In addition, looking at the grammarian report for the word of the day, placate. Maurice, you said the word twice. As for Donovan, you also said the word twice. And Caleb, you used the word 3 times. And Carrie, you used the word 3 times. Okay. And that concludes my explanation of my role for tonight and the report for the all count and the grammarian report. Thank you. Back to you, Donovan.
Thank you, Bethany, for your report. That was very constructive and very well planned. Right now it is 7:15. We are going well on time. I think overall the meeting went well. The table topics was well executed by the different questions and the answers that has been given. And same as the evaluation team, I felt that all of y'all did a good job in evaluating the meeting of your portion of evaluating. Let me placate myself to conclude my evaluation portion, and let's move on, and I'll go ahead and reflect on to the Toastmaster for the evening. Caleb?
Thank you, Donovan, for your general evaluation. And thank you, everyone, for suffering through my attempts at being the Toastmaster for the evening, which is probably the role I've taken the least out of all of the roles for Toastmasters. I would like to now hand off uh, the lectern to our president for the evening, as we do not have an education overview for this evening. And our president is Maurice.
All right, thank you, Caleb. And thank you everyone for joining in tonight's meeting. Yeah, we had a good meeting tonight, had a good prepared speech, and went through the table topic session, and everything went smoothly for the most part tonight. Yeah, we had a 5-minute recess, but everything else went smooth for tonight. And next week, next Monday, which is the 19th, if you have a speech or you have a role that you would like to take for next week's meeting, just log on to Easy Speak and assume your role or assume your prepared speech. And Amari, I will put you on Easy Speak after the meeting, so you have access to Easy Speak.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. And as a visitor, you could visit as many times as you want before you actually join. And the cost is $60 for 6 months for international dues, and we have our own local dues of $10 for 6 months. If you whenever you want to join. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Does anyone have any comments or questions before? Okay, Wes.
Oh, sorry, Wes.
Sorry, Amir, this is a fun group and you can learn a lot from it. I'm speaking as a former coach. It's a fun group with a lot of very fun people. Their sole purpose is to we help each other become better communicators. So you're good company.
See that. So I appreciate you guys for having me. Like I said, I'm from Mobile. I didn't really know about Toastmasters until probably like 2 weeks ago. So I'm glad I was able to join. But also, I did have a question. So I'm in a rotational engineering program at my job, and I'm moving in about 5 months. So I won't be here 4 to 6 months, but I probably still would pay the $60 just to have it. Would that be okay?
Yes, that'll be okay. And then if you want to transfer your membership to wherever you go, you can do that. I'm pretty sure there's many Toastmasters clubs around the area that you're
Okay.
about to go to.
Okay, sounds good.
And we'll remain virtual for at least a while, right, Maurice?
Oh, yes, yes.
Hybrid.
Yeah, we'll be mostly virtual for a good
Mhm.
while.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was gonna go to the meeting in Daphne, but that was a little bit far away. So this one is like 5 minutes away from my house, so at the library.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm in Mississippi, 2 hours away.
Mhm. And I was just going to again say welcome, Amir, and we were glad to have you. And I don't know, Maurice, did you already talk to him about the way international works? Does he
I just told
know
him
the gist of it?
I didn't tell him about the
About
Pathways program, but
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I have
Yeah,
to.
that's what I was just going to mention, Amir, that when you pay your dues for international, it gives you access to their online portal, which there's pathways. You get to choose a pathway either by going down the list and looking at them, or you can answer a few series of questions, and then the system will kind of select the path for you. And in that path, you will find just a whole lot of opportunities to practice and to enhance whatever skill it is you're looking for. Maybe you're just trying to find a better way of communicating. Maybe you're looking for more leadership roles, whether it be with other organizations or maybe with just home or even at your job. So there's a lot that you can do by gaining access to the international portal. So your $60 will definitely pay for itself as soon as you get in and get active and become interactive with the program. So it's really nice to become a member. And we're glad to have you. And I don't know if, because I was in the middle of cooking dinner while we were having the meeting, forgive me for that. But the table topics portion is definitely a portion for everyone to answer a question. So if you come back next week, maybe you might just want to jump in and answer a question. And the answers do not have to be fact. It could be
Oh,
fiction.
okay.
It's just how well you can answer the question. Like you may say, what happened yesterday when it rained elephants? Well, of course, we know that it didn't rain elephants, at least not in Mobile. I didn't see any elephants fall from the sky, but it did rain yesterday. And then you would just answer the question, and it could be just giving you an opportunity to shoot from the hip, watch out for those filler words, use the word of the day, expand your comfort level when it comes to talking or having those conversations that you may shy away from, but never know when the opportunity may come up, as for an interview or talking to someone that you're trying to make an impression with. Those conversations may come up. So it's just an opportunity for you to exercise some of those skills. So hope to
So I
see
guess
you again next week.
so I guess the oh, for sure, I'll be back next week. So the questions are, I won't be able to see the questions before the meeting, correct?
No, that would be the whole point. The whole point
Right.
is for you to shoot from the hip. Like,
Okay.
let's just say you're in the elevator and in walks someone that you have been trying to make contact with. And now's your time, go. And so you just have to
Gotcha.
kind of it's those impromptu questions that you just answer off the cuff, however you say that. Sorry.
Now you got it. I got it. Thank you.
May I say something that an engineer would appreciate?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
There was a conversation between a doctor, an engineer, and a politician as to which of the three professions came first. The doctor says, well, obviously, doctors came first since Eve was created from a river atom. The engineer says, no, wait a minute, think about this. Lord created a lordly universe of chaos, so engineers had to come first. Politician just leaned back in his chair, smiled, and said, who do you think created the chaos? Got that from a minister.
My. Good points, Wes.
Was that really a joke?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, well, I think we're saying meeting is adjourned, Maurice.
Yes, if there's nothing else, yes.
All right, well, thank you, everyone.